please take a seat if you're able to. At this time, we will start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, a prayer offered by Mr. Barr.
Lord, we come to you tonight. We don't take anything for granted. We don't take for granted the opportunity to be here tonight. We don't take for granted the governmental structures that have been built for us to deliberate and to consider together, make decisions. We don't take for granted our safety. We don't take for granted this beautiful Michigan summer day. We don't take for granted the breath of life. We know that all good things come from you. We know that all wisdom is centered in you. And Lord, I pray that as we deliberate on behalf of the city tonight, that you would grant us wisdom and grace as we wrestle through things together. Pray all these things in your name. Amen.
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 Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 1949th regular meeting of the Livonia City Council. Tonight will be a voting meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be approved at the Monday, August 8th, 2022 regular meeting. At this time, I'll ask our city clerk, Ms. Nash, to take the roll.
Councilmember Barr.
Here.
Councilmember Donovic.
Here.
Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
Councilmember McCullough.
Here.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Here.
Vice President Toy. Here. President Jolly.
Present. We have all members attending tonight. At this time, I will entertain a motion for the regular meeting minutes of the 1948th regular meeting held on July 11 of 2022.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Toy, support by McCullough. Anybody have any corrections or additions from the council? It appears none. Any corrections or comments to the minutes from the audience? There appears to be none at this time. Ms. Nash, will you take the vote?
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. The minutes are approved. At this time, I will welcome our mayor, Maureen Miller-Brosnan, up to the podium here. She has an update for us in regards to an upcoming issue. Good evening, Mayor.
It's good to see you all tonight. Just quick, I wanted to take this moment to remind our Livonia residents that we have a millage renewal on the ballot on August the 2nd. So next week, Tuesday, we're all going to get a chance to vote for our street millage, and that is what helps us to maintain over 370 miles of road in our city. These are the streets that the city of Livonia is responsible for. You've seen a lot of construction this season on other roads that the city, in addition to the county, is responsible for. So we want to make sure that we continue to have the resources in order to make those improvements. Over the last 20 years, the millage is what's helped us to make sure that our roads throughout the city of Livonia maintain an 80% good rating. 80% of the roads in our city operate at a level of good, which is really, really important in helping us to attract businesses here and keep businesses here. The millage goes to supporting the work of all of the construction companies that have warranties. And I know that that issue came up in a recent council correspondence relative to whether or not we have warranties in our road. And we, in fact, do. The millage is critical to making sure that our neighborhoods all have safe streets. Our police department depends on the fact that they're going to be safe access to all of our residents. And over the past 10 years, it's also helped us replace over 5,463 sidewalks in Livonia. And replant nearly 5,000 trees in our city. So as we look to maintain our tree canopy, as we look to maintain ourselves as a city where people can bike and walk safely through it, this millage is really critical to doing all of that. So we want to make sure to let our residents know that this is part of a long-term plan that 20 years ago, a really smart city council put into place to make sure that we were really looking out for the future of our roads. So it's money, obviously, that as a city we have come to depend on. The wise voters in the city of Livonia have passed this millage successfully 2 previous times with an 86% approval rating. So we're hoping that people value this asset as much as they have over the past 20 years and support this millage again this year as it comes before them on the ballot on Tuesday. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
President,
I
I got a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mrs. Mayor, thanks for being here. How does someone get a lawn sign? I heard there's some lawn signs about this initiative.
Yes, there are lawn signs available, and we do have a gentleman, Brett Gierak, who is the chairman of the millage. But if people reach out to me on Facebook, to any one of you even on Facebook, we can get you a sign and get them in place.
A little lawn sign plug.
Yeah, and I just hesitate to give out his personal phone number, on TV like that, but he won't mind, will he? But I'm sure if they contact any one of us. And I do want to, and thank you, Councilman Donovic, for the reminder. All of you have been amazingly supportive of this millage effort, and I want to thank you all for your endorsement of it, along with the Chamber of Commerce, who's also endorsed the effort as well. So together, we're hoping for success on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, Vice President Toy has a special commendation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's indeed a pleasure to recognize a local business. Unfortunately, they are calling it quits after many, many years of business, and that is any of you that have a haircut or need a haircut. Roger and Rod's barbershop here in Livonia is closed, and it started back many, many years ago. And many of our Livonia people have patronized them, and they were a huge success. And so we want to recognize them for the last 58 years in our community. And their dedication and hard work will be greatly missed, and we wish them all the best. And this is signed by all the council people and everyone on the council. So we're going to give this to Bill, or I keep wanting to call him Bill and Rod's, Roger and Rod's barbershop, so that they can have some more things to hang on their wall. Okay, thank you. Oh, and Mr. Chair, they couldn't be with us this evening, so that's why no one is here, sir.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will go to audience communication. Audience communication is specifically intended for the audience members to have an opportunity to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda this evening. The audience communication portion of the meeting is set to last 30 minutes at the beginning of the meeting tonight. Any additional time that is needed will be reserved for the end of the meeting. So everybody will have their chance if they wish to address the council, but we will cut it off at 30 minutes initially and then do the balance of any comments at the end of the meeting. The limit for people to address the council is 3 minutes. I've asked, we have our parliamentarian, Ms. McIntyre, who's going to be keeping track of that. If she would, just to keep us running here sufficiently, if you could give a heads up when there is 30 seconds remaining, and then also call time when time has expired, I would appreciate that. We ask any comments to be kept cordial and respectful of the meeting and all present. At this time, we have podiums on either side of the room. If you wish to address the council, please be ready to approach the podium so that we do not lose any of the 30 minutes for people walking up. At this time, we'll call.
Mr. Chair, I show that it's 7:08 right now, so at 7:38, we will,
Okay.
according to your rules, wrap things up.
Okay, and I think this gentleman, you were up there first, I believe. Would you like to start? Good evening, sir. Please tell us your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Daryl Smith, and my address is 14006 Brookfield. And it might take me 3 minutes just to say hi to everybody. Of course, I hit Laura already. But no, there's something very important here, and these are not my words. These are the words of Shelby Tankersley from Hometown Life. It says, council is considering a rule requiring any non-government, military, or public safety flag to receive unanimous council approval and the mayor's okay before it's flown at City Hall. Nothing else, not the city's budget, not a major development, requires unanimous council approval and mayoral approval in Livonia city government. Requiring unanimous approval for a council resolution on this issue would be an unprecedented and irresponsible step for a municipal legislative body to take, Brosnan said. It gives any individual council member veto power over the votes of their duly elected colleagues and the voters who elected them. Councilman Scott Barr suggested the rule after the city raised the LGBTQ pride flag in late June. Barr did not reference the pride flag directly, opting to call it a particular non-governmental flag instead. The recent LGBTQ Pride flag ceremony drew a large crowd and was described by several local officials, including Brosnan, as a small step toward making the city more inclusive. By the way, I'm the guy that walked for 4 hours with the Pride flag before the city chose to raise the flag. So it's important to me. In my opinion, the only flags that should be flying at City Hall are the U.S., the state mission, and the city of Livonia, and perhaps some other military public safety, Barr said. Council recently voted 4-3 to direct the city's law department to draft a resolution for Barr's proposal to be voted on at a later meeting. Barr, as well as members Kathleen McIntyre, Rob Donovic, and Scott Morgan, voted in favor. Council President Jim Jolly, Council Vice President Laura Toy, and Councilman Brandon McCullough cast the dissenting votes. Livonia has previously flown the Italian flag, the Albanian flag, at City Hall per the request of community groups. Livonia's District Court has also flown the Irish flag and the Michigan State University flag. McCullough said he thought the proposed approval process seemed slippery. This is something that I think puts too much policy on it. I think that recent ceremony we had pushes our city forward, and I'd like to see more of that. Brosnan's office agreed, noting the city's law department has been unable to find a similar rule. I'll say that again.
30 seconds.
The city's law department has been unable to find a similar rule at the local, state, or federal level. For decades, the city has raised flags honoring important groups. The city policy regarding this, the decision to fly the pride flag came from the mayor and noted that the current rules give council the ability to allow flags its members approve. Currently flies non-governmental flags for a single 24-hour period after they're raised.
Thank you, sir. I have to cut you off. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ma'am. Please tell us your name and address for the record. Excuse me. Excuse me. My goal for the night is to not use this thing at all. I would really very much appreciate if you do not applause and cheers. This is not a sports game. You can be in support. Okay. Thank you. We're trying to respect everybody's opinions here. And as you're doing applause, you're eating into the 30 minutes. So if that's how you choose to spend the time. Good evening, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Heather Asher, and I live at 30059 Richland Street. And I'm here representing the Livonia Junior Chamber, also known as the Livonia JCs. I've been a member going on 6 years now, and I wanted to just inform the council that we have an event coming up in August. It's called the Murder Mystery Event, and it is a dinner party with just a three-course meal and an opportunity to participate in a murder mystery show. And the reason that we're holding it this year is in honor of one of our members who passed away this spring. Her name is Renee Geisinger, and she was very well loved and very well involved in the Livonia JCs. And all of the proceeds will be benefiting the Living and Learning Enrichment Center in Northville, which is a center that promotes and supports those who have disabilities, including autism, and they give them a place to go and learn skills and trades and just have them have purpose. So we wanted to just inform the council that we are having this event. We're looking for sponsors from the city. We have tickets on sale on our website, our Facebook page, all of that good stuff. So we just wanted to share this opportunity with the city to just have more people attend.
Thank you very much.
President, can she announce a date of that?
Oh, yes, it is August 20th. Thank you. It will be at Burton Manor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Amy Van Ewen. I live at 17388 Brookview Drive. I've been a resident of Livonia for 21 years, along with my husband, and we are raising 4 children here in Livonia. Livonia City Council appears to support intolerance. How else could one explain what happened on June 11th at the council meeting when a collective 1-2 punch was thrown at anyone who is LGBTQ+ and lives within the city limits? At that meeting, it was approved to move forward with the proposed ordinance to have unanimous council approval to fly any other flag but government flags. It is no coincidence that this was proposed after the first flying of a pride flag on city grounds. While Councilman Barr stated that he was concerned the pride flag ceremony implied the city's values, the introduction and timing of this ordinance shows the council's values: disapproval and intolerance of people who identify as LGBTQ within the city. The council again demonstrated these values of disapproval and intolerance when it failed to support further discussion of a non-discrimination ordinance, one that is supported by the Livonia Chamber of Commerce, the city police, and the mayor. An updated NDO would extend protection to members of the LGBTQ+ community in Livonia. A majority of this council, however, showed they simply don't care to protect people if they identify as part of that community. Livonia's current slogan appears to be kind." On the city's website, it says, "Love Livonia." Council showed they follow neither of these initiatives when it doesn't include all people that make up Livonia, including LGBTQ+. Council should reconsider the NDO and should drop the frivolous pursuit of an ordinance regarding flag flying on city grounds. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. Your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Farkas. That's F as in Frank. I live at 14446 Ramblewood. I also share concern of my other residents that have spoke regarding council's decision to proceed on Mr. Barr's resolution of the ordinance language regarding the flag and the timing of such resolution request. Mr. Barr at the last meeting indicated that he was raising the concern based on a recent United States Supreme Court decision that came out, and that decision being Shurtleff, Shurtleff et al. Versus the City of Boston, in which the City of Boston was sued for a violation of the First Amendment based on their denial of a request to fly a flag at their city hall regarding a group that identified with a Christian flag. What Mr. Barr failed to indicate is that in that case, the facts relating to those policies actually tended to show that that adoption of the City of Boston allowing other flags to fly was in fact not government speech. And when the City of Boston denied the request to fly that flag based on that ideal, then it was a violation of the First Amendment right, freedom of speech, or freedom of religion. Now, the proposal that Mr. Barr has sent to the law department in order to restrict the flying of flags solely for the U.S. flag, the state of Michigan flag, and the city of Livonia flag, or military or public safety flags, unless there's unanimous support of both council and the mayor, actually, in my opinion, subjects council to more risk of being sued and violating freedom of speech, because unlike in this case, in the United States Supreme Court case, council has to actually adopt and agree to fly the flag, whereas council could actually come up with an alternative policy similar to the actual policy that the City of Boston had in this case, in which they allowed almost every group that had sought to fly the flag on the third poll.
30 seconds.
So on the third poll, thus not making it government speech. So I urge council to consider adopting a more inclusive policy to allow all groups to fly flags with adequate procedures and policies to go before council and the mayor. But I urge council to retract the resolution and to not have law department propose any sort of ordinance or to deny.
Thank you very much. We'll go over here. We're going to switch back and forth. Good evening. Please tell me your name and address.
Carolyn Madding, 15506 Nola Circle. And I guess I'm coming from a different perspective. I've been a Livonia resident for 60 years. I've been a nurse for 50. Most importantly, I've been the director of nursing at Hawthorne Center, which is Children's Psychiatric Hospital. So I've been around longer than the young folks here in this field. I'm kind of surprised at the hate that would direct such an action, or what trauma you've had in your life to think that, I don't know, that such an act that has so many repercussions, so much anger, so much hostility towards kids. I'm shocked.
Ma'am, please address all the comments to me as the chair
Okay,
of the meeting.
sir, I don't know who anybody is. This is my first Livonia City Council.
Okay.
I just saw that this young man here had done a proposal. So, hey, I came. 60 years in Livonia, I'm here. Because I feel quite passionately about the mental health of kids. So I hope when you make a consideration, based on all my years of experience in working with children and adolescents, that you give it some thought. You know, what is the action you're looking for? What's the measure you want? And who it's going to affect in this world? And is it really worth all the anger and hate over a flag, regardless of your political affiliation? Because again, I have no clue on what any of you are. So there you have it. That's all I wanted to say. Please give it some thought and think of the kids.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. Your name and address, please.
My name is Marie. I'm part of the Livonia community, but I do not feel like giving my address.
That's fine. Please proceed.
So I am here today to express my support for the city flag resolution requiring a unanimous vote for special interest flags. When introducing special interest flags that represent a certain ideological view or highlight a certain group of people, we are venturing into territory that is problematic. This resolution to make any special interest flag need a unanimous vote is the best way to solve this problem outside of making all special interest flags ineligible. No matter what the special interest is, it will not be representative of the whole Livonia community and will undoubtedly be excluding some residents. This is all around inappropriate for city government, which should be representative of all peoples in that community. By making it unanimous, it allows for all elected representatives of the city to have a say and represent the people that elected them. In doing so, more Livonia voices are heard, which makes the process more democratic, instead of one person controlling what all residents want. Again, this is not an issue about any particular belief or view, but is about what is appropriate and most representative for all people in Livonia. We talk about inclusivity a lot. To be truly inclusive, city government should only include flags that include everyone, as in a city flag, a state flag, or a country flag. That's it. So I hope you will vote for what is best for all Livonia residents and pass this proposed ordinance regarding city flags. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on this side, sir. Your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is John Hillers. I also would rather not give my address.
That's fine.
When you first decided that you were not going to fly the pride flag for Pride Month, and I heard about the protests happening out front, I decided to join. I like to be involved in community civic groups. And so came out front and stood with a pride flag, and I really didn't think it was that big of an issue. It's a flag. And this old lady came up to, I shouldn't say old, but this lady came up to us, asked, can I ask what this is about? We explained, and that we would like the city to fly the pride flag during Pride Month in order to show acceptance and welcoming for Livonia's LGBTQ+ community. And she told us, thank you so much for doing this. This is so important, that my grandson is gay, and we didn't know until he almost took his own life. And having this representation is extremely important. And then the city came out and said they decided to fly the pride flag, and thought, okay, that's good, it's something. And when I heard about the proposal to limit it only after flying the pride flag, it's just absolutely disgusting. There's not a diplomatic way to go about it. It's just gross. Are you seriously so full of hate that a simple flag saying that LGBTQ plus people are welcome in Livonia, are a part of Livonia, that LGBTQ plus teens and kids can feel welcome to express and be themselves here in Livonia. Is that seriously so hard for you? That's flying a simple flag, hidden. You can't even see it from the road. It's hidden behind the building. You don't see it unless you're coming to City Hall. Is that really so hard? And that it bothers you so much? During 2020 and 2021, we came before the City Council repeatedly offering evidence of racial profiling, harassment, and targeting of Black people by the Livonia Police Department. And the City Council's response every single time was, the mayor has that authority. You couldn't do anything. You were completely powerless. But fly a simple flag
30
and
seconds.
you suddenly find all this power you're willing to flex? It's just gross. There's no other way to be about it. I've read my Bible cover to cover. I've read the Gospels, Acts more times than I can count. And there, I just can't even imagine what part of that you are taking out of context in order to justify telling people they are not welcome in our city. It's just, if this is part of your Christianity, then I am very glad to no longer call myself a Christian, because it's one less way I can be associated with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sir, your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name's Bob Zuner. I live at 31569 Bennett in Livonia. Yeah, and I'd like to respond to, there's been a lot of great conversation regarding the flag, so I'd like to talk to what I believe. I believe that flag that should be displayed in Livonia City should be limited only to government flags. And many of my fellow Livonia citizens support the flying of the flags, the United States of America, Michigan state flag, and official city Livonia flag at municipal buildings. These three flags unite the community and should be the only three flags flown in the main city hall in city property. We cannot allow flags flown that do not unify the entire community and cause division among the Livonia community. Where do you draw the line on flags? This is the big issue. There started out flags for, let's go LGBTQIA+. There's over 30 pride flags, 31 queer flags, over 50 ethnic flags, over hundreds of political flags, over 195 country flags, and hundreds of other religious flags, and thousands of other special interest group flags. Why open up the flying of flags that do not unite the entire community? We all love and respect all of our community members, whatever flags they want to fly, and we welcome them flying their own approved flags at their tax-paying residence. But we should not allow any special interest groups to fly flags on the Livonia tax-funded properties. As you can see, there's a lot of opinion here. Everybody's pushing the blame on everybody. We need to just keep it cut through all this red tape and keep it focused on government flags only. And everybody can have the right to fly their own flags in their own groups. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ma'am. Your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Alex King. I live at 9806 Berwick. I am very proud to be a resident of the city of Livonia, more proud to be a resident of the United States of America. And frankly, I'm pretty sad that we're here about this issue. I think the problem isn't whether or not we're flying the pride flag or the Albanian American flag or the Italian flag. The problem is that we have lost in this nation and in our city faith in our nation. We've lost the American spirit. We have focused too much on our internal selves and not enough on our neighbors and our friends. We talk about acceptance, but we don't accept. We talk about what we need to see, but we don't put that forth in ourselves. As far as the flag that flies outside of this building, I support our police. I support my gay friends. I don't need to see either of those flags. The reason for that is because I understand that not everyone supports those groups. The only way we will fix what is wrong with this country is if we focus on our individuality and the fact that that is what makes this nation great, and we stop fighting amongst ourselves about what represents us and who is entitled and who deserves a flag. That is not the important thing here. I understand inclusivity, but when we stand here and I listen to people talking about they're on our side, we're in this, we're so divided as a nation. I have a 13-year-old son. He will never know his World War II era great-grandparents. He will never know patriotism. He will never know what it is to truly love your neighbor. It doesn't have to do with LGBTQ. It doesn't have to do with whether you support police. I'm frankly tired of just the constant arguing and the constant upheaval that's going on here. The fact that this flag was referred to as the city's official sentiment says who? What's the city's official sentiment? We can't, the only flags that should be outside of this building are the ones that represent us as a collective group. We are Americans first. We have forgotten that, and we need to stop focusing so much on what makes us different and why we can't be friends with our neighbors anymore, and focus on what makes us great and what makes up the fabric of this nation. Enough of the individualizing, enough of the separate flags we have to stop being divided over issues like this. We have to stop. I love this city, I love this country.
30
but
seconds.
If we're gonna continue on this path, we will never get anywhere. We don't have to have a flag that represents a specific group. We don't have to do that, because the bottom line is we are all Americans, and the only real flag that matters is that one. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. Your name and address, please.
My name is Susan Chewy. I'm at 32700 Hees, and I support this proposal, and I see no hatred in it, as people have been referring to. I have been a citizen of Livonia for 27 years, and until the last couple of years, I have been very satisfied with the management of this city. I feel the raising of flags for various groups is not representative of the sentiments of most of the people on my street. I would love to live in a united Livonia and focus what we have in common. Special interest flags discriminate against anyone they do not represent. The American flag is inclusive of all of us. It gives us the freedom to hang the flags of our choice on our own property. We need to preserve our democracy. City Council represents us and should vote to represent us. This should not be a unilateral, politically motivated decision by the mayor. We want to stop being divided into groups. We all want the same things. We all value the safety that our police department provides. We value our good schools, and we want clean, upkept neighborhoods and parks. And this needs to be your focus. Keep it simple. U.S., Michigan, and Livonia flags only. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your name and address, sir?
My name is Bob Tenaglia, 15367 Susanna Circle. I also believe that the only flags that should be flown are the three flags, U.S., state, and city. If you have to fly a flag for someone to feel inclusive, to me, that seems like they're pretty insecure. And it doesn't, I agree with other people that said that it's not inclusive of everybody. Not everybody believes that LGBTQ is the right path for living. The federal government protects every individual based on sexual orientation, and that's one of them. So to say they're not representative is false. And to use the Bible, as I don't see where it's not in the Bible, is incorrect. So that's all I have to say. I'm sorry I'm a little nervous and not as prepared as I should have been. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Your name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Jeff. I'd rather not do the address, but with a business invested in this community, I guess I want to say that if I were to fly a particular flag at my business, I identify as Catholic, and if I flew a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag, I'm guessing some people might not come to my business. And I just don't think that's a time or a place to do such a thing, and I think government is the same thing. I don't think government should be flying any particular flag besides the American flag and I guess the local city flag and state flag. So I just wanted to voice my support for the resolution. I think it could go further to just not have any other flags, but at least this is a close second to where if it was a unanimous decision, then I think that does represent majority of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Your name and address, please.
Excuse me, Jim.
My name is Kate Shaskovsky. My address is 16941 Shrewsbury Court in Livonia. Hi, I'm here tonight to object to the resolution that was proposed. This is not 1952. People have evolved. Almost everybody in this room probably has a friend who is gay, who has a child maybe who's gay, who's a cousin or a brother-in-law or whatever, okay? This is something that has come out in the open. This is an evolving thing that has occurred over the last several years. I note that Mr. Donovic, in proposing the Albanian flag go up, part of the argument for it was that the Albanians have been oppressed. Yes, but what group in this country has not been oppressed like the LGBTQ community, and also the black community? But if you're going to be talking about the reason to fly a flag because of oppression, I think you should look at other groups. Absolutely. I noticed that the Italian flag has been flown in the past. It has been there are many cities around the state where they've had special flags flown. No one died, okay? But if it helps other people to feel inclusive and that they matter in a city, it's important to do. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're at 7:37.
We are at 7:37. I think we have about 1 minute left of open communication. If someone would like to proceed and use that minute.
Will I have an opportunity after?
No, you can address the council once, so.
I'm talking about, can I save my 3 minutes until after? Is that
Yes, yes. So at this time, it's 7:37. I'll close audience communication. Yes, sir?
Actually, if I could I use that 1 minute?
Well, it's about 25 seconds right now. So,
Okay.
your name and
Well,
address, please?
Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion. For me, personally.
Your name and address, please, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. John Donabedian, 14236 Beatrice. My question for this council is, how do you justify giving yourselves, your individual selves, the power to veto on any issue? And so on the question of which flag can we or can we not fly, that's a question. But my question is, giving yourselves this power, any one of you could just shut down a proposal that every other single council member voted for. To me, that is like one of the most undemocratic notions I've ever heard of, because yes, you're elected officials, but not with the power to veto a whole body, a whole city council. I think that's just overstepping.
Sir, with all due respect, I have to cut you off per the rules of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That concludes. I'm going to politely ask you to not do that. Well, no, this is not a it's not a show. And no, listen, if need be, we can call a recess of the meeting and then that'll be that. But we can conduct business as well. At this time, we will move to council communication. Does anybody on council have anything to address at this time?
Mr. President.
Mr. Donovic.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to reiterate the JCs are in the house, and I'm pretty excited about the murder mystery event on August 20th. And it's really awesome to pay respects to Renee Geisinger, who unfortunately passed away this year. And it's really awesome what the local JC chapter does in the city. They do all kinds of community events. Anyone's welcome to attend those events. They are looking for more members. It's a young group of people between the ages of 21 and 40. And it's an activist group that kind of helps young people get into the professional world, volunteer in different efforts, whether it be cleaning up parks, whether it be going to events like this at Burton Manor on August 20th. There's all kinds of events. We have a lot of fun. And I implore anyone to come on out, enjoy the JCs, enjoy the JCs event. And if you'd like to join the JCs, just go to their websites and participate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Ms. McIntyre?
I'd like to take this opportunity to wish a happy 90th birthday to our former city attorney, Harry Tadigan. Harry served the city with great distinction and honor and dedication and integrity for many years. He was instrumental in working with Ed McNamara to secure a lot of the parkland and providing the resources that gives Livonia so many of our outstanding parks. Bicentennial, the council had the honor and privilege of naming a park several years ago for Harry Tadigan. We also need to lift Harry and his family in prayer. Harry's an inpatient right now at Angela Hospice, and that's kind of a fitting journey for Harry, who has given his life literally to the city of Livonia, and to be spending his final days in an outstanding facility in Livonia, and that's Angela Hospice. And for any of you who receive Angela Hospices or see their publication, Harry and his wife Betty were featured on the most recent publication, talking about his life and his legacy. So if we could just think of Harry and wish him well on his 90th birthday. We're all happy that he made this milestone, but if you would please keep Harry and his family in your prayers during these difficult days. Thank you very much.
Mr. President.
Thank you. Vice President Toy?
Thank you very much. I want to thank Councilwoman for bringing that forward. I did not know that about Harry, and he, as she has said, served this community for years and years. I've been on the council quite a few times, as many of you know, and Harry taught us as council people a whole lot about parliamentary procedure, about if it looks like there's a problem, a conflict, then jump off of it. Do not vote on that. You couldn't ask for a more honest, straightforward attorney of all things. No, no offense, Paul. But honestly, he was just, he's just such a delightful person. And as Kathleen has said, that family is just so awesome. And my prayers go out to him, and takes you back a few years, I'll tell you that much. Thank you, Mr. President, for the indulgence, and thank you, Councilwoman McIntyre.
Thank you very much. Mr. Barr.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. President. First, I'll just echo what's been said about Mr. Tadigan. It's a total class act, and certainly prayers go out to him. Second, I just want to reiterate what the mayor already said, but just my support for the roads millage, and encourage everybody to get out and do that. It's excellent example of efficient government at work, and it's a program that everybody here should be proud of. Third thing that I want to do is just take this opportunity. We always have a lot of neat opportunities in the city, but we have a pretty unique one this Friday. This Shakespeare in the Park, maybe you've heard of it, Friday from 7 to 8:30 in Stemelsky Park. I always struggle with how to pronounce that, but it's the one immediately north of the old YMCA on Stark Road. I unfortunately can't be there. I wish I could. If I'm not mistaken, one of my former classmates is performing in that, and she knows who she is. So I just want to give a shout out to her and encourage people to check that out. I think it's a cool opportunity for our city.
Thank you very much. If there are no other comments from the council, I have my announcements at this time. We have new data on item number 8. That is a letter from the DPW director answering questions that were posed at the last study meeting. We as a council would also like to wish a happy birthday to my former boss, Judge Kathleen McCann, who will be celebrating a birthday on July 26th. And I'll also send my well wishes to Mr. Tadigan, who happens to be my neighbor and somebody who I've enjoyed talking to very much over the years. At this time, we will move on to the agenda for this evening's meeting. First items on the agenda, we have to note that we have reports from the mayor and other city officials, specifically a communication from the Department of Finance dated June 30th, 2022, forwarding quarterly investment reports for the city of Livonia ending in the period of May 31, 2022. Another communication from the Department of Finance dated June 30th, 2022, forwarding financial statements from the city of Livonia ending in the period of May 31, 2022. At this time, the council will proceed to the consent agenda. Tonight, that is items number 1 through 7. Those items were previously studied on July 11th at the study meeting and found to be requiring no additional study or discussion, so they will be voted on as a single item. That does not mean that they are less important, but only that we need no further information at this time. I will consider a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Motion from Toy, support from Barr. Does anybody in the audience have anything to say about the consent agenda? Items 1 through 7.
Excuse me.
Good evening, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
Good evening again, Stephanie Farkas, 14446 Ramblewood. I would like to address item number 7 on the consent agenda.
Please proceed.
And that
Oh,
would
no,
be.
excuse me.
Take it off the consent. We need to remove that from the consent agenda. You can't, okay.
Paul?
Yes.
For a legal opinion here, if somebody wishes to address an item on the consent agenda, we do not need to remove that item from the consent agenda to hear the.
No, not, if a member of the council wanted to discuss it, we'd have to remove it from the consent agenda. But if it's, but the public can comment on the issue.
But we can't.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
They can comment, and if we
Okay.
choose to take an
Thank
action,
you.
we can. Please proceed on.
Thank you. I would like to advise the council regarding a application for leave to appeal that was just granted by the Michigan Supreme Court that is related to this issue. I'm sure Mr. Bernier probably will be well aware of this. In the case of People versus Travis Johnson, the Michigan Supreme Court actually on July 22nd just granted an application for leave to appeal addressing whether or not the statutory provision of MCL 769.1K, subsection 1B3, violates the separation of powers by assigning the judicial branch tasks that are more properly accomplished by the legislature. And since the Michigan Supreme Court will be hearing this issue, I would ask the council to pull the item from the consent agenda and table the matter until the Michigan Supreme Court is able to adequately address the constitutionality of this issue. The case initially went up on an application in which the Michigan Supreme Court granted mini oral argument as to whether or not to grant the actual application for full review of the Michigan Supreme Court. After the mini oral argument, they did grant the application, as I indicated, on July 22nd, meaning they're going to have full briefing and oral arguments on the issue, and will issue a decision regarding the constitutionality of the provision for the courts to levy these fines and costs in criminal cases. I believe that this request can be inferred based on the deficit that was reported in the draft report regarding the general fund and the court building improvement fund that has occurred over the past 2 years. And
30 seconds.
Given this additional information, I believe it's inappropriate for the law department and for the council to proceed until the Michigan Supreme Court or the legislature rules on this specific issue. I urge council to review the Trial Court Funding Commission final report from 2019. It was listed as an appendix in the pleadings that were filed in the Michigan Supreme Court.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
At this time, is there any other audience communication in regards to the consent agenda only? Good evening, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
Good evening. Ginny Krenz, 34075 Pembroke. Could anybody on this panel explain what she's talking about?
At this time, that's not what we're doing.
Oh,
Do you have any comments?
Oh, it was on item 7. No, I have no idea
Thank you
what
very
she's
much,
talking
ma'am.
about. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we remove that off the consent, please, so we can discuss it.
Okay, we have a motion from Barr to remove that from the consent agenda.
I'll support it for sake of
We have
discussion, Mr.
a
Chair.
support from Toy.
Don't need a support.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah, so at this time, we will remove 7. We'll come back to that. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. We'll proceed with items 1 through 6 at this time. We've heard audience communication. Ms. Nash, can you take the vote on the consent agenda reflecting items 1 through 6 at this time?
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. Items 1 through 6 pass as the consent agenda. We'll move on to item number 7. That is a request to authorize an increase in court costs assessed for various civil infractions and misdemeanors coming to us from the 16th District Court for the Court Building Fund. Mr. Barr, you had asked for this to be removed.
Yeah, I'll offer an approving for sake of discussion.
Support.
We have an approving from Barr, a support from Donovic.
Chair.
Mr.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Barr?
Thank you. I just, first of all, I appreciate Ms. Farkas for coming here and got your name right, I think, right? And I'm kind of with Ms. Krenz. I think I followed what you were saying, but I understood where she was coming from as well. So I just threw the chair to the law department. Paul, a couple questions. First and foremost, this item is something, we've done similar things like this in the past, right? It's not a regular thing, but I mean, the court has been able to set these fees with council approval up until this point, correct?
The court sets their own fees. The council has nothing to do with setting court fees on a typical basis, with the exception of the building fund. That was done by resolution when the building was being proposed and built way back when. So that was done by council resolution, so whenever the increase comes in, it has to be done by council resolution. If the court decided to raise its ticket prices, the council would have no say in that at all. What Ms. Krenz, I believe, I apologize if I got the name wrong, there is a case in front of the Supreme Court on the issue. Nobody that I know of is happy with the funding that the state does with our court system. The judges aren't, we're not, lawyers aren't, but it is the system that we have, and until it changes, that's the system that it is. I know the judges don't want to be involved in it.
So my question with this, that I think is the pertinent question for us tonight, is if we were to approve this, as we have done in the past, and we talked about it at our study meeting a couple weeks ago, if we were to approve this, this doesn't put us in any worse position regardless of what the Supreme Court decision is. That decision will be what it will be, and the city will react accordingly, correct?
It'll be what it is, and if the Supreme Court wants to change the entire funding system, I don't hold my breath on that because it would be a massive change, but it could happen. But we don't know what the court's going to do or when they're going to do it, if they do anything at all. And if they do rule it unconstitutional, then it's got to go to the legislature. The legislature's got to make changes. So I don't anticipate anything happening for quite a while, should they rule that way. I'm not suggesting they're not going to rule that way, but even if they did, it can't happen overnight.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that, and thanks again to the resident for giving us the opportunity to get a little bit smarter on this tonight, so thanks.
Ms. Toy?
Thank you. If I may, to our city attorney, that was going to be my question. Is there a time certain on this? Because the legislature is out for the summer. You know, I mean.
The time certain is the court will do what it does when it does it.
Okay, and that's the Supreme Court we're talking about,
The Supreme
right?
Court of Michigan.
And then it'll bounce down over to the legislature, possibly.
If they rule it to be an unconstitutional funding, then it'll get bounced to the legislature, and they will do what they do when they do it, if they do it.
And God bless America. Thank you very much.
Any other comment? Mr. Donovic?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the Law Department for trying to briefly clarify that. I'm comfortable moving forward with it. I know it's a pretty in-depth discussion at the state level, but just reading briefly, it's about a defendant pleading guilty to one case and no contest to another, and essentially arguing the court costs that he had to pay. I know that's not an entire situation, but that just briefly what happened in that situation. So I don't necessarily think that is going to affect our Livonia courts, and if it does, the legislature is going to make some movement at a later date anyways. So I'm comfortable moving forward with it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the council? I see none. Any audience communication furthering the discussion on item number 7? I see none. I will ask Ms. Nash to take the vote. on item number 7.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. Item number 7 passes. Moving on to item number 8. This is unfinished business, a request for additional appropriation and expenditure coming to us from the Department of Public Works for the Edgewood Emergency Sewer Repair from budgeted funds. I'll note that we do have new data on this. That's the letter from the DPW Director. Council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Donovic?
I'd like to offer an approving.
Support.
We have an approving from Donovic, support from McCullough. Any comment on this item? Ms. McIntyre?
Again, as we had a lengthy discussion at our last meeting about this issue, and regardless of what we approve or not approve, it's an emergency expenditure, so the funds have already been expended. I appreciate the data in this letter. It's comprehensive. It's what we had asked Mr. Roroff and Mr. Rushlow for. I will say that the disappointment to me is that the reconciled invoices were received in March of 2020, showing an overage of $364,000. And there was no communication with anyone on council from the administration that we were looking at this kind of overage. And to me, that's a long gap between the time that an overage of that size and scope is known and the time that council is made aware of it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. No other comment from council? Any comment from the audience in regards to item number 8? I see no audience communication. Ms. Nash, please take the vote on 8.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. Item 8 passes. Moving on to item number 9, an award of bid from the Department of Public Works to replace the Wilson Barn roof from budgeted funds. Motion from the council?
I'll offer an approving.
I'll support.
Approving from McCullough, support from McIntyre. Any comments? Mr. McCullough?
Looking over, I know this is the matter of Wilson Barn roof replacement. The scope itself, it's replacing the underlayment, it's going with the cedar shake. To me, it's the right product if preventative maintenance is done over the years. I do know that we are in the process of updating kind of our master plan when it comes to Greenmead, and this would have been nice to add some kind of synergy to both projects. However, in light of the timing and summer almost being over, I'm full support to get this project underway right away and put a nice amenity on Wilson Barn. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Mr. Barr?
Is there someone that can speak to this tonight from the administration? Because I have a couple of questions.
Mr. Rushlow, are you able to take some comments, questions? And Mr. Davis?
So, and as they're coming up here, my questions are actually in regard to, I'll give credit where credit's due. I think it's Mr. Jolly that actually raised these at the study meeting, and I thought, whoever it was, I thought they were good questions. And I don't know that we've gotten answers to them. And one was a question about the expected lifespan of this roof, and then the second question was about alternative materials. We know we had the building at Greenmead recently where we dealt with that several times and ultimately found an alternative material that was less expensive, but still met what we needed for that. And I'd be curious, when we brought this up at the study meeting, you said that had not been looked at, and I'm curious if that's been looked at since we talked about it. So lifespan and then the alternative materials question.
Good evening, Council. Councilman Barr, thank you for the question. We were just playing rock, paper, scissors, and I lost. I get to address, so I'll take the life expectancy. The existing roof, I believe, was installed in the mid-'80s, so I think it's fair to say with proper maintenance, we can get 30 to 35 years out of a new roof. Actually, I think probably even a little longer, considering there's no underlayment under the existing roof right now. So we would think it would last even a little longer. With regard to the alternative materials, council was part of a long, lengthy process with a couple of different facilities at Greenmead. One was the bungalow, which the Historic Preservation Commission approved 3-tab shingles on that, which came back much higher than Cedar Shake did. And then the Alexander Blue House, which is a little different than a historic property. It's an adaptive reuse. So the Historic Preservation Commission treats that a little bit differently. They allowed us to do a test case of an alternative material that's cedar. It's a composite cedar material that is guaranteed for 50 years. So Wilson Barn, being in its original setting and being a historic building, and our conversations with the Preservation Commission with regards to windows that need to be replaced on the site, it is not, I mean, and Brandon Kritzman and I did speak about this. We felt there was little chance that they would approve an alternative material. Maybe a 3-tab shingle, but again, I think the expense would have far outweighed the concern. We already went that route on one existing property. I think it would have come back much, much higher. So I hope I answered everyone's questions on this. I'm happy to answer any more if you might have them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Donovic.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for being here, Mr. Davis. In terms of the commission asking questions about this alternative product, is there a time frame that the commission will come out and let us know that, hey, this is a successful product, we should start using it in the future, or you're not necessarily sure?
That's a great question, Councilman Donovic, and I just don't have a good answer for that. I mean, the existing roof, why we pushed the historic preservation to, and they did agree, is because the existing roof in the Alexander Blue House started to fail almost immediately. So the idea of, and just where it was in the sun and the shade, there was, the north part of that roof was constantly wet. So the idea of putting up Cedar Shake again and being in the same situation just didn't make any sense. And that roof really started to fail almost immediately. So I would think in the next few years, we're anticipating installation here in fall for the Alexander Blue House. So I would think in a couple years or so, if the appearance looks good, is good, and we don't have any leaking issues on the roof, that they might be open to, placing it in different properties.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Just with the improvement in material technology over the years, it's nice to see us using alternative products, not necessarily the same products that may have been used, as long as it accomplishes what the commission wants to accomplish, while also, being fiscally conservative with the dollars we spend. But awesome to see the Wilson Barn getting this much-needed update, and I look forward to seeing you back before us at some time with some nice new windows there as well. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. If there's nothing else from the council on this item, I'll go to the audience communication aspect for item number 9. Does anybody have anything to address in regards to the roof at the Wilson Barn? I see none. Ms. Nash, please take the vote on 9.
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. 9 passes. That concludes our agenda for this evening's regular meeting. We will go back to audience communication. At this time, the rules remain the same. I will ask the audience to be courteous and appropriate, not to cheer or jeer anybody as they are commenting. Before we start the audience communication, I will just note that the item that has received the vast amount of audience communication tonight is actually on the study agenda for the next meeting. It is item number 12. That may be the more appropriate time to address your comments. You're free to address them now, but you may wish to do so at the study when we actually consider the item as item number 12. With that being said, ma'am, your name and address.
Nancy Klein. I prefer to not give my address.
Okay.
I am in agreement that there needs to be a proposal to set up guidelines for the
Ma'am,
regulation and types of
if I may,
flag.
can you please let go of the microphone? It's going to distort your voice, and it's not going to be heard.
Leave it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'm in agreement that there needs to be a proposal to set up regular guidelines to regulate the type of flags that are flown in City Hall. I'm in favor of limiting the flags to the American flag, city flag, state of Michigan, and military and public safety flags. By limiting the flying of the above-mentioned flags, all citizens of Livonia are represented, not special interest groups, political agendas, or acquiring votes. It keeps it plain and it keeps it simple. We live in a democracy, not a dictatorship, and it is not the mayor's discretion to decide that matter. City Council should have input into any issues that may evolve outside of the stated proposal. My father was a World War II veteran who fought for all Americans. Old Glory represents all Americans. Thank you, Councilman Barr, for seeking a proposal to address this issue.
Thank you, ma'am. Your name and address, please, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. My name is Deb Christensen, and I'd rather not give my address.
That's okay. I have to ask, just so
That's fine.
you're all
That's
aware.
fine.
That's fine.
The reason why is I'm also a business member here in Livonia. I am a clinical social worker, and I reside in Livonia. I am a graduate of Franklin High School, and my husband and I, who's also in the audience, we've raised our children here. They both graduated from Churchill High School. I don't know if any of you have been in the halls of Churchill High School or any other high school here in Livonia, but you will see a large portion of the LGBTQ plus community there. And I'm going to tell you, as a clinical social worker with 30 years experience working with young people and young adults, that inclusivity matters. Feeling like people are seen matters, okay? I'm not here to tell you to fly the pride flag, although I think it should be flown. But I am here to tell you that this is an obvious, unilateral stop point that you guys are trying to do right now with this proposal. In that, like the gentleman said, how are you supposed to have so much power, just one of you, with one veto vote, for all the people that live here in Livonia? And I keep telling folks that, I came back here after college. I raised my family here in Livonia. We've been in our home now for 30 years. I've been more in Livonia than any place else, okay? But sometimes I'm not a proud member of our community, simply because of some of the discrimination that I see, which, I'm here also to speak about the NDO that I think that our city needs to adopt. We are in a place in our society in Livonia where you guys could be the leaders. You could be like other communities that we see around us, but you're making choices not to. And let me just say to you that people are paying witness to this. They are. Our young people are paying witness to this. And I don't know if any of you know that anybody that has committed suicide or killed themselves because of an issue like this, because they don't feel valued in their community. And I only hope that you're not able, I only hope that you don't experience that. It's tragic. It's absolutely tragic. So I'm here to express my voice, that I do think that this proposal
That's 30 seconds.
needs to, again, not asking you to fly the pride flag. I think it should be flown. You know how you put all the Christmas signs up? For the whole month, that's where it needs to be. On every city street of Livonia. Because that's the kind of community I want to live in, that I want my business to be in, is some place that's representative of everybody, including the kids.
It's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll go to this side here. Your name and address, please.
My name is Louise Weller. I live at 32352 Oakley. And I am standing up here tonight to ask that this council not vote for this resolution that I've heard is proposed, that it require a unanimous vote of this council in order to put a flag up. What's being considered here is not odd or unusual. The United States of America in front of the White House and in the Capitol flies a pride flag. The state of Michigan flies a pride flag. The city of Detroit. And you can go on and on all over this country. they fly pride flags. It's not that big a deal. What is a big deal is the idea that our community would vote to have it be a unanimous vote. I don't know anybody else who does that. If the president wants a flag flown, the office of the president orders it. If the Congress wants it, they order it by a majority vote. If the governor wants it, she orders it. If the state legislature wants it, they vote on it by a majority vote, not by, it has to be 100%. That would be unusual, unique, and embarrassing, I believe. What are we afraid of? It's flying a pride flag. It's saying we're inclusive and we honor members of our community who have not felt included in the past. It would be an embarrassment for our city council to decide it has to be a unanimous vote. Don't do this to yourselves. And please don't do this to our city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On this side here, your name, sir, and address, please.
My name is Kellen Winslow. I'd prefer not to say my address.
Sure.
I want to praise and thank Scott Barr for his proposal. I think that no other flag should be flown at a government building besides government flags, such as the American flag, the Michigan state flag, and the City of Livonia flag. I think, personally, it is an embarrassment to all places, all government places that fly flags that are not their own government flags. I think that the government should show what the whole people in their nation believe. They should represent their whole community, and any flag that does not represent the whole community should not be flown. There are only 3 flags that can be included as representing the whole of Livonia: the American flag, the Michigan state flag, and the City of Livonia flag, along with the flags that go along with them, such as the police department flags or fire department flags, flags of those kinds. I'd like to address what some of the other people have said tonight. As a young person in the Livonia community who has lived here his entire life, I feel personally excluded when people fly flags, special interest flags, that go against what I believe. And I think that I would not want to put other people in that position flying flags that I know would make others feel excluded either. I also do agree that putting it down to a unanimous vote is not the right way to deal things, because then it's less of a democracy, because one person holds the power to strike down something. I think that there should be no vote, and that it should be outright banned to fly any special interest flags on Livonia government buildings. But I still would like to thank Mr. Barr for his proposal, and I think that is a much needed step to bring Livonia towards a better direction.
30 seconds.
And I think that it should be the opinion of all the people to be as inclusive and kind as possible by not flying flags that could possibly offend somebody in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Debbie Yates, 29161 Hathaway. I would like to comment on the response to Councilman McCullough's resolution on July 11th regarding human and civil rights and updating the city's outdated non-discrimination policies. I heard Councilwoman McIntyre refer to Councilman McCullough's resolution as vague and nebulous, and express concern about 8,000 different voices with 15,000 different perspectives all shouting at you. I was disappointed to hear her use the voices of the constituents as a reason not to open the discussion. Please allow me to be one of those 8,000 voices now. I do support the discussion of updates to the city's non-discrimination policies Furthermore, I would like to say the words that need to be heard on this topic, since the discussion on the matter 2 weeks ago was too vague and nebulous. The LGBTQIA+ community does not always feel safe and supported in this city. The fact that you are not willing to include them in a citywide non-discrimination ordinance tells us that the city government does not respect the needs of that community. Anything less, whether intended or not, sends a clear message that you place politics and business interests above the humanity of the LGBTQIA+ people in our city, and that you do, in fact, support the discrimination of that community. I request that you all please look past whatever political or personal issues you have with this matter and take the next step forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, you addressed the council at the opening. You are prohibited from speaking again.
Is this the second meeting?
This is not the second meeting. This is the end of the first meeting.
Oh, we're not in the study meeting now?
We are not. We have not concluded the regular meeting. If you'd step aside, there's somebody who has not addressed the council yet. Good evening, ma'am. Your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Brooke Voller. I prefer not to give my address. I would just like to address the council as another young person in the community. I moved to Michigan about 5 or 6 years ago and have lived here in Livonia for 4. I own my home here. I own a business here in Livonia. And I would just like to acknowledge the proposal put forth by Councilman Barr. I find it surprising that some of the council members who are maybe more on the conservative side of the spectrum want to introduce further regulation when that particular party tends to want to limit regulation in general, and that was kind of the basis of the party to begin with. And I just find it a little disappointing that so much, outrage and putting forth further regulation just because of a flag and such severe limits and as far as voting unanimously for something like this is a little bit of a reach as far as what you're allowing your government to be in charge of. And how, again, like the man has been mentioned before, how much power that gives one member, and how that isn't really represented in any other government that we are a part of, state, federal, or otherwise. So it does, as someone who is, a newer member of this community, but loves the community that I am in, it is troubling and bothersome to me that this is such an issue for just making sure that everyone feels welcome.
30 seconds.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for your service, and goodbye.
Thank you very much. If there is no further audience communication, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Toy, support by Donovic. Any comment from the council in regards to adjourning the meeting? Any comment from the audience? I see none. Ms. Nash, will you take the vote to adjourn?
Councilmember Barr.
Aye.
Councilmember Donovic.
Aye.
Councilmember Morgan.
Aye.
Councilmember McCullough.
Aye.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Aye.
Vice President Toy.
Aye.
President Jolly.
Aye. That is a 7 votes to adjourn the meeting. The meeting is now adjourned. We will conclude this meeting and start the next at 8:30 p.m. We'll have a brief recess of approximately 11 minutes. Thank you very much.
Let's go get a snack.